Okay, Chair, I can confirm with you that we are up and running on YouTube when you're ready to get started.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the Town of Fort Erie Community Adjustment Meeting of February 18, 2021. Please know that this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. I now call this meeting to order. First, I'd like to introduce you to the committee members and staff. So for our staff tonight is Carrie Rach. She's our secretary treasurer who will be recording minutes of tonight's meeting. And then we have Mackenzie Cece. She's the meeting host who's doing the background technical duties. Tonight's following members are the following: as Ken Burden, committee member, Chris Nutt, committee member, and I'm Sam Cersola. I'm chairing tonight's meeting. To those members of the public who may be participating electronically in the public meeting portion of this meeting tonight, you may wish to put your view on gallery view by clicking the top right corner from speaker view. I also ask that you're mindful of background noises for the duration of the meeting. Please also note that participating members of the public remain in the virtual waiting room via telephone or electronically until they are called upon during the public meeting. This is a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act for the purposes of considering both minor variance and consent applications. Members of the committee have been provided with all written comments received by agencies and public prior to this meeting. Committee members are asked to mute their microphones until you're asked to speak. Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak and vote by raising your hand. The purpose of this meeting is to obtain input from residents relative to the application. Those participating online via Zoom will be asked to raise their virtual hand when they wish to speak. On a computer, you can do so by clicking on Participants in the bottom center of the screen, and then by clicking Raise Hand. On a mobile device, you can tap More on the bottom right and then tapping Raise Hand. You'll then be brought into the meeting by staff. You can then unmute yourself and start your video by using the buttons on your screen. If you're participating by phone and you wish to raise your hand, press *9 and you'll be unmuted by staff. Next, we'll hear from the applicant or agent and then from those in support or opposition of the application or ask questions. We ask that each attendee keeping their comments to under 10 minutes to allow all attendees the opportunity to speak. Applicants and attendees are advised they are free to leave the webinar once a decision is made on their application. Each application will proceed in the following order. Number 1, the secretary treasurer to summarize the purpose and effect of the application and any comments received. Number 2, the applicant called upon to speak and make any further comments if they have any. Number 3, committee members will ask questions of the applicant. Number 4, the public will be asked to speak one at a time to state their full name and address for the record and any comments they have towards the application. Number 5, chair will close the application once all comments have been heard. 6, committee members will make a decision on the application, approve, refuse, or defer, and state if any conditions apply. Please address your comments and questions through the chair. Each application will be heard in order in which they appear on the agenda. The notice of decision will be provided to all applicants stating the outcome of the hearing and any conditions of approval if required. Please note that correspondence and comments received this evening are restricted to the matters of the Committee of Adjustment and the Planning Act. In considering each application this evening, the Committee of Adjustment will have due regard for the provisions of Section 45 and Section 53 of the Ontario Planning Act of 1990 as amended. A 20-day appeal period exists for each application heard this evening. Final appeal dates are noted on the notice of the decision and are available by requesting a copy in writing. I'll begin by asking committee members present have any conflicts of interest in respecting the application we heard this evening. Chris?
I have none, Chair.
Yep. Ken?
I do not, Chair.
And I have none. I now ask the Statutory Treasurer if notice this meeting was probably given in accordance with the provisions of the Ontario Planning Act.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the notices were circulated as per the regulations of the Planning Act to residents within 60 meters of each subject property that was circulated for tonight's hearing, and a sign was posted on the property.
Okay, thank you. And have you received any requests or adjournment or withdrawal respecting of tonight's applications?
There were comments received from the public with regards to adjourning a request to the committee to adjourn the meeting. However, that will be addressed at the application stage.
Okay, thank you. So that's it now. So we'll start proceeding for our first application. So our first application is going to be consent file B0121 and B0221. 546 Ridge Road North. And I'll ask Mackenzie to bring the applicant in to the webinar to participate.
Chair, the applicant is present. Chair, you're muted, just to let you know.
Okay, sorry about that. The first application is consent file B021 and B0221. The address is 546 Ridge Road North and 0 Prospect Point Road North. The applicant is Upper Canada Consultants, William Hightop, and the owner is 2175725 Ontario Inc. V. Gibbons. And Mr. Hightop, are you ready to proceed with tonight's application?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'll ask Kara to read the correspondence and then we will take the appropriate matters after that. Thank you.
Just to note, the files are BO121 and BO221 for 546 Ridge Road. So I'm just going to review the planning report that was provided, as many of the attendees, I believe, are interested in the public comment, provided public comments that were addressed by planning staff. Staff have received comments from several members of the public regarding the application. Concerns have been expressed related to the potential removal of mature trees from the subject property, loss of habitat for wildlife, future use and conservation of the dwelling on retained lands, and future development of the subject lands and potential impacts related to the designated heritage property to the north. Servicing and traffic. The committee will receive a detailed comments from members of the committee has received all detailed comments from the members of the public that were provided. Staff will respond to each category of comments below. Tree removal. The trees located on the subject lands are not protected by policies, bylaws, or regulations of the town. The lands are not designated as environmental conservation in the town's official plan or zoning bylaw. The existing woodlot is, however, identified as core natural heritage system in the Niagara region's official plan, consisting of significant woodland. This policy framework offers a level of protection should future development be proposed on those lands. Regional planning staff have commented on the subject applications and have no objection to the lot creation, as the proposed lot line is located approximately 35 to 40 meters from the significant woodland. As part of any future development application, the region will require submission of an environmental impact study to assess the impact of the proposed development on the significant woodland. The town would implement a tree preservation plan through a future development process in accordance with the recommendations of an environmental impact study. The designation of the existing dwelling. Several comments have been received related to the preservation of the dwelling on Part 1 located at 546 Road and its possible designation under the Heritage Act. In 2020, the town's Heritage Committee put forward a request to designate the existing dwelling on 546 Road under the Heritage Act. The Municipal Heritage Standing Committee met on January 29th of 2020 to evaluate and score the dwelling with respect to its architectural and historical value and context. The results of this evaluation and scoring were a recommendation from the working group to designate the property. The committee then met on March 10th to discuss the results of the working group committee meeting. As this was not an owner-initiated request, town staff was tasked with reaching out to the homeowner to seek permission to move forward with the designation. Staff reached out to the owner several times and received no response. Additionally, due to the restrictions stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic, all committee meetings were suspended and the Municipal Heritage Committee was unable to advance a formal recommendation for designation to council. Since the submission of this consent application, there has been a renewed interest in the designating the dwelling. The Heritage Committee has asked staff to move forward with initiating the designation process. Staff will be bringing an intent to designate bylaw and report forward to council for consideration tentatively on March 8th of 2021. As part of this process, the current owner has been notified and has indicated that they do not wish to have the dwelling designated. It is staff's opinion that the proposed consent application must be reviewed against the policies and applicable bylaws in place at this time. Town and provincial policies relating to the protection of heritage resources are not currently relevant, as a dwelling is not currently designated under the Heritage Act, nor is it listed on the town's municipal register of properties of cultural heritage value or interest. Should the dwelling or lands be designated or listed in the future, policies related to the development on or adjacent to a cultural heritage resource would be applicable at that time. Conversion of existing dwelling on Part 1 to a commercial use. Parts 1 and 2 are currently designated low-density residential in the Ridgeway Thunder Bay Secondary Plan and Zone Residential 1, in accordance with the zoning bylaw. The current R1 zone only permits single detached dwellings. The conversion of the existing dwelling into a commercial use would be subject to an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment. Several comments have been received regarding the conversion of this existing dwelling to a commercial use. The town has not received an application requesting such an amendment of the official plan or zoning bylaw. Should the dwelling be designated or listed as a heritage property in the future, any future use must demonstrate that heritage attributes of the building and property are conserved in accordance with provincial and town policies. The impact of the heritage property to the north. The former Ridgeway Crystal Beach High School lake located on the abutting northerly parcels is designated under the Heritage Act. Provincial town planning policies require protection and conservation of heritage properties in result of development. A heritage impact assessment will be required if development is proposed on either the retained parcel or the new parcel, which shall demonstrate that the heritage attributes of the protected heritage property to the north are conserved. The heritage attributes of the high school include its architectural features, its location in Ridge Road, its scale and landmark status on the landscape, and that its architectural style is unique within Fort Erie. The current proposed severance and easement are not anticipated to have an effect on the heritage attributes of the former Ridgeway Crystal Beach High School. The subject property was formerly 2 parcels. The dwelling at 546 Road was separate from the rear property as recent as December 2020. The owner merged the parcels into one property in order to apply for consent to sever and effectively move the boundary line between the front and rear parcels. The proposed severance is in line with the secondary plan policies and zoning bylaw, which permit the development on the rear portion of the lands shown as Part 3. No additional development permissions are being granted as a result of the subject applications. Therefore, the applications are not anticipated to have an effect on the heritage attributes of the former high school. As stated previously, a heritage impact assessment would be required as any future development on either the retained or the new law. The town's municipal heritage committee was circulated the subject consent applications. The committee of adjustment has received their comments directly. Staff's opinion on the matter is described in the comments above. Traffic and servicing. As of yet, staff have not received an application on the proposed development on the subject parcel. It is premature to comment on the potential traffic and servicing matters of the rear lands. A traffic study and a servicing brief could be required as part of any future development proposal on Part 3. The easement being requested is for underground servicing, stormwater management through the retained parcel in favor of Part 3. Any physical servicing work would be subject to a future review and approval of the town through a development application. As illustrated on the consent sketch, the applicant also owns land adjacent to the subject parcel, which fronts onto Hazel Street. Application B01 proposes the creation of a new residential lot in the Ridgeway Thunder Bay Secondary Plan. Part 3 currently retains a shed and is proposed to be developed for multi-residential development in the future. The retained parcel is described as parts 1 and 2 and contains a single detached dwelling known as 546 Ridge Road North. A servicing easement is proposed on Part 2 in favor of Part 3. The easement would be used for stormwater purposes. The front portion of Parts 1 and 2 containing the single detached dwelling are zoned residential 1, while a small rear portion is zoned site-specific residential multiple 1. Staff have not received any proposals for the parcel. No developments proposed on the portion of the parcel zoned RM1508. The R1 zone requires a minimum lot frontage of 18 meters and a minimum lot area of 600 square meters. Part 3 is zoned site-specific residential multiple 1 RM508, which requires a minimum lot frontage of 50 meters and a minimum lot area of 4,000 square meters. The site-specific provisions allow the subject lands to be developed for block townhouse dwellings, street townhouse dwellings, or an apartment house. The existing zoning on Part 3 is a result of the Ridgeway Thunder Bay secondary plan process. Both the parcels comply with the minimum lot frontage and minimum lot area required by the zoning bylaw. The proposal to create a new parcel for future residential use is consistent with the medium residential density designation in the Ridgeway Thunder Bay plan, secondary plan, and it is also consistent with regional and provincial policies that encourage residential intensification within the urban boundary. The proposal to create a servicing easement on Part 2 in favor of Part 3 is also desirable as it will secure servicing connection for future development. Any future development on Part 3 would be subject to an environmental impact study, as the lands contain a significant woodlot from the region's core natural heritage system. Development would also be subject to a heritage impact assessment to evaluate any possible impacts to the heritage attributes of the former Ridgeway Crystal Beach High School lands to the north, which are designated under the Ontario Heritage Act. Planning staff have no objection to the consent applications, subject to the removal of the shed on Part 3, payment of 5% cash into the parkland dedication for the creation of a new lot, that the applicant provides draft easement documents for review by town staff and final registered documents once it's final, that the applicant provide a reference plan to the town prepared by a surveyor, and that the final consent fee is paid as well. No further objections were received from other town staff and departments from Bell, and the region has also stated that the regional planning staff completed a site visit of the property and given the scope, nature, and location of the proposed lot line, have no objection to the consent and will not require studies for this application. Regional staff do note that any future development or site alteration will require Planning Act approval and will be subject to the completion of an EIS that confirms no significant impact to the woodland feature will occur. That concludes your comments in the planning report. Comments that were received from the public were all forwarded to the committee for their review as well.
Thanks, Kara, for your comments of the town and the region. Mr. Highcup, did you comment on any of the correspondence that Kara's just read and of what the town has just read from the report? And any of the neighbors' comments, if you want to address? If not, the floor is all yours, or the virtual room is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening to yourself and members of the committee and anyone in attendance. My name is William Haiku. I'm a planner with Upper Canada Consultants and am representing the owner for these two applications, BO1 and BO2. As you know, the applications in front of us this evening propose to sever off Part 3 as shown on the severance sketch for future development purposes. The existing dwelling shown on parts 1 and 2 will be retained. An easement is proposed for Part 2 as it may be used for future stormwater management purposes. The site is currently zoned for residential uses. The existing single attached dwelling on Part 1 is in an R1 zone. The severed lands have a residential site-specific RM1 zone. And as Karen noted, that was a zoning established through the secondary plan. It's come to my attention over the last several weeks that there has been a flurry of comments received on this application. I feel most of these comments are related to any future development probabilities for Part 3 and Parts 1 and 2. It is important for me to point out, and I think Kara's done a good job in the staff report outlining that, but the applications tonight do not represent any physical changes to the property. The only thing that an approval tonight would allow for is the removal and the requirement of the removal of that existing shed. So we are not proposing any physical changes to the property other than that shed with this application. Furthermore, this application does not propose to change that existing land use and that zoning permission. As noted, any future developments will be required to have their own independent development applications, and they will be required to complete the necessary studies, most namely the heritage impact assessment and an environmental impact study. All these reports and studies will need to be prepared in order to submit an application to the town. That application would need to be approved by council prior to receiving approval. That process will include a comprehensive public process and public meetings for anyone who does have concerns related to any future development on either of these lands. And this application, I just want to reiterate, is simply to create a property line to sever off the front of the existing dwelling on Ridge Road from the rear of the property. As Kara indicated, it was recently two properties and recently merged so that we have the ability to move that line over. So I'll keep things short here, but in conclusion, it's my professional planning opinion that the proposed application meets all the applicable policy requirements of the province, region, and the town of Fort Erie. I've had an opportunity to review the conditions of approval and I have no objection to those conditions. I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns that you may have and I'm here for you to do that. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Do the committee members have any questions or comments for Mr. Heidkop? Chris?
No, I don't have any.
Ken?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
The only question I have is you are meeting the zoning requirements of the minimum lot frontage and the minimum lot area of square meters in that area, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'll ask Mackenzie now to see virtually if anybody by phone or by virtual webinar to come on to present any information pertaining to this case. Then you may do so now.
Sure. So just as a reminder, for those joining by computer, you are able to press the participants button at the bottom of your screen, and then you will see the raise hand button. So you can indicate to us that you'd like to speak through that avenue. And I do see that we have one caller. So you can press *9 to raise your virtual hand to indicate to us. So I'll just wait a few seconds to see. So it looks like we do have a couple people interested. So I'll start with Mary and bring Mary in.
Hi, Mary. Oh, hi, Mary. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, so can you please state your name and address, and we'll go from there?
Sure. Mary McClelland Pop, and I live at 407 Bellevue Boulevard in Ridgeway.
Okay.
I'd just like to start off by saying that I had asked for an adjournment of this matter until after March the 8th, when council is scheduled to review the survey and evaluation that was forwarded to them last year, or was forwarded to staff last year, February 2020, regarding this property.
Okay. Is that your own concern?
No, I still have a couple of other concerns.
Yeah, I wrote it all down. Go ahead, yeah.
My main concern really is the easement off of Ridge Road. I know right now it's supposed to be used for stormwater management and underground servicing. I'm concerned that at 5 meters, it's also going to be used for construction traffic. So that's a major concern.
Okay.
And then I also wanted to talk a little bit to the committee about the heritage of character of Ridgeway in general and this property as it fits into the neighborhood.
Okay.
All the developers refer to the charm and quaintness of Ridgeway in their solicitations to prospective buyers. And the appeal of Ridgeway for new residents is that charm and the character, as well as the downtown core. And much of the charm of Ridgeway lies in the large lots, which allow for space between homes, generous setbacks of the houses on the lots, which afford great curb appeal, particularly in the north end of Ridgeway, along Ridge Road. And the property that we're talking about at 546 Ridge Road is probably the most unique one in that area. It is virtually a landmark for Ridgeway. The diversity of architecture that is prevalent throughout the whole town is again particularly applicable in that area and to that home. It's a large Tudor style home. The surrounding landscape about the home adds greatly to its appeal, its curb appeal. And I'm worried that this proposed severance leaves this existing landmark in a diminished state. The proposed severed lot will, in the front, be 39 meters long, and in the back, only 22.86 meters long. It will be a derogatory influence. I don't know what else to say. The house will not be positioned well on its lot. I don't understand why it can't be, the severance can't allow for at least another 15 meters in the back to put this heritage home in proper perspective and still give it a large lot that will be useful to a future buyer. I mean, we don't know what will happen. This property, though, if it has that minuscule backyard, will be diminished. A person wanting to use it as a home will probably look at the lot and be turned off by it. If it were to become a commercial enterprise in some way, the back doesn't even leave room for parking at 22 meters, not much parking anyway, and there certainly isn't any parking on Ridge Road. So I guess I understand why they want to sever. I just want to see the house left in a distinguished situation on the property.
Okay. Is there any other additional comments?
No, I think that town staff have answered most of my other comments and questions that I had.
Okay. Do the committee, go ahead. Yep, sorry, Mary. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure that your committee was aware, Mr. Chair, that we had submitted our application or our survey and evaluation February of last year on this property. So our application predates this business by almost a year. I don't know why it wasn't sent to council. And that really doesn't matter. I just want you to be aware that we started this process over a year ago.
Okay, and it was last February.
Yes, that's when it was sent to town staff. We actually did the work in January of 2020.
And did you score it as a heritage?
Yes,
Okay.
it scored very highly, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other comments you'd like to make?
Yes, we included the property in our evaluation. Not just the house, but also the property.
All right, thank you. Is that it, Mary? Because I've asked committee members if they have any questions for you.
I think that's it, yes.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
And Chris?
I don't, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you for your time and giving us the information and the comments, and I've written everything down here, and I'm sure Kara has, so thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Mackenzie, would you like to,
Yes, absolutely. So we do have another individual with their hand up, so I will be bringing them in. Steve Mathewson.
Okay. You actually see me, or is it just a picture?
I just see somebody on a tractor.
Okay,
Is that
that's, well, I'm not on the tractor today, but
That's okay. If we can't see you, as long as we can hear you, that's the main thing.
okay, there we go.
Here.
There we
How
go.
are you?
I'm good, and how are you?
Good. So can you please state your name and the address and the location of proximity where you are living in terms of the property? I know I've read your correspondence, but I still have to do it as you're now doing virtual webinar. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So my name is Steve Mathewson. I live at 3640 Hazel Street. We are adjacent to the property directly behind the shed on part 3.
Okay.
Okay, so basically Mary covered a few things, so thank you, Mary. Couple things that we wanted to hope for in the future, because I know we're just covering the severance on this one, so we understand that. But the 60-meter coverage for notice, when that was sent to me on who got notices and whatnot for this development, it shows that it goes into the daycare's driveway, which I'm pretty sure that the address would start at their driveway. So the daycare never got any notice of this, which this is going to be a huge impact for the future development of this. So I was hoping that, one, we increase the coverage for that, or just include the daycare, because a subdivision starting there and having machinery with tons of little kids is kind of an issue.
Through you, Mr. Chair, may I just address that quickly?
Yes, sorry, Kara, go ahead.
Through you, I did check Mr. Mathewson on that, and the notice was circulated to the daycare. I checked the letters. Actually, I keep a record of all the mail that was sent out, so it was sent to the daycare, just to assure you.
Lori,
If it didn't get there, I
no-
don't know. I just wanted to let you know it was mailed there, though.
Okay, well, look, I spoke to Lori several times and she had no idea anything about this. So either way, then the second thing was, as we've noticed on Thunder Bay, and several other developments where they decide to clear cut before they're given approval and they're slapped with a tiny little fine. Can we somehow guarantee that this isn't going to happen back there, where as soon as this is set, they're allowed to clear cut and they're going to be slapped with a $10,000 fine and not care because they're going to make 10 million? I know that deals with the NPCA, but you also deal with the municipality portion of this, do you not?
Yeah, I'm just getting everything here, and if I have any questions, I'll ask. I'm just hearing your presentation.
That's Mary answered a few other things, and then everything else was covered in what you guys said. So
Okay, do the committee members have any questions for Mr. Mathewson?
I
Chris?
do not, Mr. Chair.
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chair.
And I have none. I'm good. I'm good with what you've just told me in terms of the circulation coverage and the clear cutting. Kara, I just got a question for you. Before any development has been orchestrated on site through approval through the town, there should be no clear cutting. Is that correct?
On this property, there are significant woodlands, which I believe the owner is aware of. So they would not be clearing the trees without approval from the region. Region has provided comments on that, so there would be a fine that was impacted from the region prior if something did occur.
Okay.
But not from the town's perspective. Like, I don't think the town issues fines, but
the region itself?
The region itself would be issuing the fine, so.
Okay,
I'd have to get a hold of the region, sorry. I'd have to get a hold of the region to see how many fines or how to increase fines, because just like Thunder Bay, that was clear cutted. Across from the arena.
Yeah,
that was
you
clear
can,
cutted and
you were provided with a
considered wetland.
comment in the report. There's contact in there for the region.
Okay, okay,
So if you contact them, they might be able to clarify that a little bit further if no one else can in the panel tonight.
okay, thank you.
okay, is there any other comments?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Council.
for your comments. I read all your correspondence you have already sent in prior, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do I
Mackenzie, is there anybody else in the virtual room?
So let's take a look. So there's nobody with their hand up at this moment, but I will open the floor again to anybody in the attendee waiting room at this time that would like to speak to this application. So we did have another hand raised, so I will be bringing in Sarah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Ms. Foster, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good, and can you just state your name and then your address and your proximity to the application presented in front of us?
Yes, I'm Sarah Foster and I live at 3650 Hazel Street, and my unfenced property backs directly onto the backyard of the home on Ridge.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yep, you can present your comments, and then if we have any questions, we'll ask you. Yep.
Okay, I don't really have a lot to add because a lot of it's already been said, and I did include that in my written document. But I noticed there's been a lot of talk about how this is strictly about the severance and it's not about development. But I think the bottom line is that we all know in this neighborhood that if the severance is approved, that development is impending. And I know when I bought my home here, it was because of the beauty of this neighborhood. It's quiet. It's green, we have beautiful yards, we have beautiful trees, and any kind of development that's going to happen over here is going to really affect the integrity of this neighborhood. And I don't think anybody who has moved in here thought that that was going to be the outcome. Yes, the high school, I mean, that was always in the back of my head that something was going to happen over there, but I didn't suspect that the lot right behind me, that would be an issue. So again, while we're saying it's premature to talk about development, it's not premature to think about what's going to happen when the dust, the noise, the construction trucks. We've got 3 young kids living side by side here who enjoy playing. And again, me not being fenced, there are a lot of concerns there. And again, just the bottom line, the integrity of this neighborhood and the beauty and the charm that it holds is going to be totally changed from this.
Okay, thank you. And do any of the committees have any questions for Ms. Foster? Chris?
No, I have no questions, Chair.
Ken?
Neither do I, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I have none. So thank you for your presentation and also your correspondence that you gave to the committee prior to this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time, I'd like to invite any of our other attendees this evening to indicate to us that they'd like to speak. So again, you can press the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen if you click on the participants tab. So we do have somebody else who's indicated. I'm bringing in Keith. Hi, Keith, you're currently muted. If you're able to unmute yourself, please go ahead and do so. Perfect.
Hear me at all? No,
Yes, can.
you can't hear me?
I can hear you, yep.
Okay, I'm sorry, I seem to have messed something up here. I've just got a couple of questions on the easement.
Before you go, sorry, Keith, I'm just trying to, we always
Okay, yeah.
ask your first and last name, your address, and in proximity of your location to the proposed application today.
Okay,
Thank you.
my name's Keith Ratcliffe. I live at 1359 Orchard Avenue. That's in Crescent Park. I'm a member of the Heritage Committee, is the reason why I'm involved in this. And I
Okay.
just had some questions that I haven't heard answers to yet. Basically on the easement, if the easement is approved, does that mean that the applicant can go ahead and start digging and putting in whatever storm needs they have?
Kara, I just want to make sure, I don't think that can happen until a site assessment has been approved. Is that correct?
That's correct. They also have final conditions that they have to get approved. They have 1 year to clear all the conditions of the application as well, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
So has there been any studies done as to whether I guess it would be the laterals on Ridge Road could handle the any new development on Prospect?
I'll have to address that to Mr. Highcop. I was going to address some of the questions. Mr. Highcop, has your client or has looked at that yet, or that's not even in consideration yet right now?
Mr. Chair, we've done some preliminary reviews, and we're really just setting this up. There's a current Ridgeway master servicing plan. So we've set this up and put that proposed easement there to allow for the opportunity to align any future development should it occur with that master storm drainage area plan. But we have not completed the specific calculations at this time. It's a little bit premature. We're currently in the middle of doing the required environmental impact study and tree preservation plan. So until that is completed this coming summer, will we know what type of development will be able to fit there and what the necessary information is to complete those calculations. So we've taken the preliminary information available from the town, and that's what we're seeking to implement here. Any future development will have to narrow in on those specific calculations to ensure that any existing infrastructure can handle that capacity.
Okay, thank you. Keith, go ahead, sir. Mr. Ratcliffe, go ahead. Yep, I'm just trying to help you out here. Go ahead.
Yep, no, that's great. Thank you very much. And so is that a reason why the services can't come in from Prospect?
Mr. Highcop, is that the reason why?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the applicant. Yeah, so generally what the municipality will do, will set up a master servicing plan for the entire urban area. So that's something that we're just following along with.
Okay. All right. And we don't know if there's any footings or anything on the residential building on Ridge Road that would be disturbed by putting an easement in like that?
At this time, I don't think so. Mr. Highcop, did you?
It's too early to say. I'm not sure what type of infrastructure will be going through there, if anything at all. Like I said, it's a little premature to say. I can say that the proposed easement line is about 7.37 meters away from that easement line. So we're talking almost 20 feet, or if not more.
Right. Yeah, just curious on that. And yeah, I guess pretty much. Oh, So how does the town decide how much they need for an easement if they don't know what development is going in? Or is that all done in another procedure? I'm sorry for sounding uninformed here, but.
Karen, do you have an answer for that?
At this point, they're just seeking permission to create an easement.
Mhm.
How the easement will be created will be done in conjunction with the town in the future. So the applicant and the agent propose what they foresee as an easement size. We don't provide that information to them. They have to provide us with what they're seeking. And then we circulate the application based on what they propose to us, and that is what is approved.
Right. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess that answers most of my questions and concerns.
And that's why I was asking, because you're more asking about the easements, and that's why I was asking you questions and cross-referred to Mr. Highcop. Thank you for your comments. Do any of the committee members have any questions for Mr. Ratcliffe?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
I do not, Mr. Chair.
And I have none. I did my thorough with Mr. Highcop asking his questions. So thank you so much for attending this meeting.
Well, thank you for letting me and answering my questions.
Thank you. Is there anybody else, Mackenzie, that wants to go on the webinar or on the phone by pressing *9?
So at this time, I'm not seeing anyone, but I will give our attendees a few seconds to indicate to us otherwise. Chair, I'm seeing no one else that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any other questions for the applicant? Ken, Chris? Mr. Highcop, just a couple of things I want you to take back to the applicant. And looking at this case, one of the things was the construction traffic, the 5 meters. Is that going to be safety for people to get around? Can you please make a note of that? The clearing of the trees, that'll be through a tree preservation plan and a site assessment, and also through the Niagara region. I don't have really too much on that. The other thing I have in development is the fencing for the protection of the neighbor. Can that also be in consideration? This is side part to what this case is, but can you also bring that to the applicant if there was such a proposal that there is some type of prevention so that people don't wander in there into a development if there's a proposed development in the future, that you guys take that in consideration. And thanks for the master plan, storm plan around that area. That clarified some of the comments that you just summarized when Mr. Ratcliffe was asking the questions. Is there any other comments do you have based on what the neighbors have said or tonight, or you're good with everything?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm pretty good with everything. If the committee members have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. But really, I guess just to summarize, we're in the preliminary stages of looking at the severed lands. So unfortunately, I don't have as much detailed information as maybe some might want. But I think your asks and your requests are well taken. And I will certainly bring those back to the owner. And should the development application come forward, I think those are things we can absolutely take into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask that this file to be closed and ask the committee members to express their views and comments and then put the motion on the floor. There's also a motion of an adjournment by one of the members of the public that also asks us to put an adjournment. That can be debated after, but let's put the comments on the floor first. Either Ken or Chris, you can start, doesn't matter.
Pardon?
Yep.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very briefly, reading through the report, I thank the staff for an excellent explanation of the matters at hand. The points that I would like to make that are both the parcels comply with the minimum lot frontage and the minimum lot area requirements of the zoning bylaw. Also, the proposal to create the new parcel is consistent with the medium resident density designation and also consistent with regional and provincial policies. The other matters that were raised tonight will be dealt with in the future through due process. And I'm pleased to know that the Heritage Committee will have an audience with the council on March the 8th.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to echo Committee Member Burden's comments, under the scope and purview of what we're here to discuss and what our authority extends to, I thought the staff did a very good job in explaining what this is and what needs to be done in the future or can be done in the future. So I just want to thank the staff for that. And I know that through the site plan process, all the concerns that people have raised can be mitigated and usually are mitigated. So anything that people have brought up in regards to anything to do with the wood lot and everything, that's really not within our scope of authority at what we're looking here. So I appreciate the comments, and I understand the concerns. So those are my comments on this.
Thank you. And myself, I'm thinking the neighbors, thinking the town of Fort Erie, the town itself is going through a transformation of urban development. Official plan has changed. And sometimes it's unfortunate that neighbors do not know that certain zonings are being changed. And then when it happens, we come to a forum where they raise their comments and concerns through some of the comments that are made, but it's out of our scope. Our scope here is to see if the consent application meets the requirements, the lot frontage, does the easement make sense to go through those parcels? And through the question I asked Mr. Ratcliffe to Mr. Highcop, I'm pretty confident that that the answers will be made, and I'll be supporting the application based on that. In terms of the Heritage Committee, I also appreciate them coming forward. That will be dealt with on March 8th with the town, and any other comments or questions or concerns will be dealt with the zoning process and all the other policies that have to be implemented. And Mr. Highcop, I know this is a closed session right now. Just bring all those comments and concerns to the builder. If there's a proposal being done within the next so many years, I have no idea if this process can be done. It still has to go through the preliminary stages of an EIS, a tree preservation plan through the Niagara region. There's a lot of hoops you have to go through. And I hope that you can work with the neighbors and the residents to make it enjoyable for that whole area. And please take their comments seriously in terms of what they're looking for. So and now the other problem I have to ask the committee members, are you ready to proceed with making a decision, or did you want to defer the decision based on what Mary just said earlier?
I'm prepared to move forward with a decision, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and Chris?
I'm prepared to move forward with the decision, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
You guys can put the motion on the floor, and then we'll go from there.
Did you want separate motions for the separate applications, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I do. Yep.
I'll make the first motion for consent file B0121 that we approve the consent application subject to the conditions that have been outlined in the report. And I make that recommendation or that motion based on all of the submitted reports and verbal comments which we received tonight.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
I will second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
the motion is carried. Mr. Highcup, you receive written notice of committee decision, and the decision becomes final so long no appeals are received within the 20 days of this notice. And now we're going to the second application here.
Chris,
I'd like to make a motion to approve file B0/21 for the easement.
Okay,
With the comments received, written and oral, in regards to the report.
I'll second the motion.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. You receive a notice of committee decision. Decision becomes final so long no appeal is received within 20 days of this notice. Thank you for attending the meeting, and thanks for the neighbors for their comments. And I hope those comments and questions do get addressed at a future date with the town council. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chair, you're muted.
Okay, sorry, I don't know how that happens. It just happens. Usually it's always on, so sorry about that. The next application is consent file B0621. The address is 1380 and 1410 Commerce Way. The applicant is Harbor Reality Holdings, A Harbor. The owner is 131443 in Ontario Limited, and it's E Taraba. Is that how you say it?
Harbor.
Harbor. Okay. I know, sir, the owner is Taraba, right?
Yes, correct.
All right, then, okay.
Yeah.
All right, then. And Andrew Harbor, you're the agent. Are you ready to proceed with tonight's application?
Yes.
Okay, I'll ask Kara to read the correspondence, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to note on the agenda that was circulated, the address is actually incorrect. It should be 1380 and 1481 Commerce Way. I think it says 1410, but just to note that on the agenda. This application proposes the creation of an easement to be located on 1380 and Commerce Parkway, which is part 3 shown on your consent sketch. The easement on part 2 for the sketch is in favor of 1481 Commerce Parkway to the west. For most of its length, the easement is 5 meters in width, except for the far east edge where it widens to 19.62 meters. The easement is required to permit installation of a stormwater outlet that will connect to a storm sewer that is located at 1380 Commerce Parkway. The outlet is required to accommodate stormwater runoff for future development on 1481 Commerce Parkway. It is desirable from the planning perspective Detailed engineering review will occur through the site plan approval process for the proposal. The Ministry of Transportation has requested confirmation if drainage of the QEW lands are contributing to the proposed stormwater outlet. The town's coordinator of development approvals has reviewed the drainage plan for 1481 Commerce Parkway and confirmed that no drainage from the MTO corridor will be captured and sent through the proposed stormwater outlet. This information was relayed to the MTO, and the agency is satisfied with the clarification that there is no MTO drainage contribution to the new outlet at 1380 Commerce Way. Planning staff have no objection to the proposed easement, subject to the following conditions: that the applicant provide draft easement documents to the town for review, and once the consent is finalized, registered documents, that the final consent is submitted with the final fee of $177. No other town staff had no objections or conditions of the application, and no objections were received from the region, although they did ask for 2 conditions. That an erosion and sediment control plan be submitted, and that a landscape planting plan be submitted that they have been in contact with the applicant on. And the MPCA has also required that a work permit be obtained, which I believe the applicant has already contacted them on. That concludes the comments and objections to the file. You're muted, Mr. Chair.
I don't know why it's not coming automatic today. Sorry about that. Andrew, do you have any comments or questions of the correspondence that Kara just read from the agencies?
No, I do not.
Okay, I'll ask the committee members, do you have any questions or comments for the applicant?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Neither do I, Mr. Chair.
The only question I have is what's the type of business that we're operating here or going to operate?
So we're a manufacturer of air filtration equipment.
Okay,
So we've a lot of people in the town would have known us historically as Harbor Manufacturing Limited.
okay,
We started making, it's our 75th year in business in the town. We currently operate at 7 High Street and 23 Lewis Street. And we've outgrown our facilities and are looking at building a larger manufacturing operation.
okay. Thank you so much for giving us that information. Thank you. Mackenzie, do you have anybody who would like to speak in the webinar session or call by phone? It's press *9. Can you check now, please? Thank you.
Sure. Again, so if we have anybody joining by telephone, please press *9 to indicate that you'd like to speak, or please press the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen for those joining by computer. Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask this file to be closed and ask committee members to express their views and opinions and then put the motion on the floor. Chris?
I'm going to support the application. It's in the industrial park. I mean, it's minor in nature. I think the comments from the MTO are noteworthy in that they're going to have, they ultimately near the corridor, the MTO corridor, have the final say on that. But yeah, this meets within the 4 tests. It's minor, good use of our industrial land. So congratulations to Abatement that they're on the expansion, and looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I will be in support of the application. I had a question for Kara. With regards to the Appendix 1 from the region, is that considered or will be considered as conditions in this approval?
Those are the conditions that will be on the decision. Yes.
Thank you.
I summarized them in my brief rather than reading the whole paragraph, and they were also provided to Mr. Harper as well for his reference. So.
All right, thank you. Those are, I will be in support of the application.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the application. It meets the consent test application, and I'll be supporting the application based on what my colleagues have previously said. So if someone wants to put the motion on the floor.
I'll put the motion on the floor. I would like to motion that we approve file B06/21 FE at 1580 and 1480 Commerce Parkway. The Committee of Adjustments considered all written and oral submissions and finds that subject conditions noted in the report meets the Planning Act criteria and is consistent with the provincial and regional town policies.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yep. The motion is carried. The receiver notice committee decision within 20 days decision becomes final so long no appeals are received. Thank you so much for attending our meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next application is B0721. The applicant is, the address is 3040 Thunder Bay Road. The applicant's Upper Canada Consultants, M. Kernahan, and the owners 5040455 Ontario Inc., S. Ruston, and A. Runge. And Matt, are you ready to proceed with tonight's application on behalf of the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Nice to see you again. Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask Kara to read the correspondence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. File BO 721. This consent application proposes the creation of a new lot for future development of a residential dwelling. Part 1 on the consent sketch is municipally known as 3040 Thunder Bay Road and will continue its residential use. This application also proposes to sever Part 1 from Part 3 and is intended for future construction of a single detached dwelling. Part 2 is intended to be taken by the town as a road widening. The R1 rezoning requires a minimum of 18 meters of lot frontage for an interior lot and 20 meters of lot frontage for corner lots and 600 square meters of lot area. Part 1 and 3 meet both lot frontage and lot area requirements. Creation of an infill residential lot in an urban area is supported by provincial, regional, and town planning policy and is considered good planning. Staff note that 5% cash in lieu of parkland dedication is required for the creation of one new residential parcel. Planning staff have no objection to this consent application, subject to the following conditions: that a reference plan be submitted to the town, that 5% cash in lieu of parkland dedication be made, the final fee of $177 is paid. No further objections were received from town staff, the region, or the NPCA, with three conditions that were requested by Infrastructure Services for a lot grading plan, a road widening, and the tree fee to be submitted by the town, which have been provided to the applicant for their files. And that concludes our comments.
Thank you, Kara. Matt, did you want to comment on any of the correspondence that Kara read by the agencies that she just read or by the town?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't take much of the committee's time other than to say staff has done a stellar job at preparing this report. We've had the opportunity to review it ourselves as well as with our clients, and we have no objection to the proposed conditions, and obviously we're supportive of the recommendation to approve the application this evening. So subject to there being any questions of me, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do the committee members have any questions for Matt?
I do not.
I have none. Mackenzie, would you like to look at see if anybody wants to participate in the webinar or go on the telephone, press *9?
Sure. At this time, I'd like to invite any of our attendees to raise their virtual hand or press *9 to indicate that they'd like to speak with us. Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask this file to be closed. I'll ask committee members to express their views. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I'll be in support of the application. The consent file provides that the lot frontage and lot area requirements are being met and that the infill residential lot is supported by provincial, regional, and town planning policy.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be supporting the application as well for the same reasons as committee member Burden had stated, that it does meet the 4 tests. It does meet the Planning Act through the province, region, and town policies.
Thank you. And I'll be supporting the application. If someone wants to put the motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'll put a motion on the floor that we approve consent file B07/21 for 3040 Thunder Bay Road. This is in reflection of all of the reports and verbal comments that we had received this evening.
Thank you. Chris?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion is carried. You receive notice of committee decision. Decision becomes final so long no appeals received within the 20 days of this notice. Thank you for attending tonight, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the 4th application tonight is consent file B0821 and B0921. The address is 595 Bellevue Boulevard. The applicant is Patricia and Kevin Steele.
Okay, there. Hi.
Hi, Mrs. Steele. Can we see my video if you can? Hit your video.
I
button.
tried. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I haven't been able to get my picture up there.
It's
Mr.
okay.
Chair, we tried earlier, didn't we couldn't get it to go, so.
That's
Yeah.
okay. As long as we can hear you. The important question I have to ask you first. Are
Yes.
you ready to proceed with tonight's application?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask Kara to read the correspondence and comments. Thank you.
This consent application proposes the creation of a new lot for future development of a residential dwelling and creation of an easement to protect service laterals for an existing dwelling on the retained lot to the north. The proposed new lot are parts 2 and part 3 on the consent sketch, which front onto Pearl Street. Part 1, the retained lot, is municipally known as 595 Bellevue Boulevard and will maintain its residential use. It will continue to be accessed from the northern limit of Bellevue Boulevard. Part 3 is the portion of the proposed new lot that will be subject to an easement that protects the existing laterals that service the dwelling on Part 1. This proposal will result in 2 parcels, which meet the minimum requirements of 18 meters of lot frontage and 600 meters of lot area. Part 1 has various zones with various requirements for minimum lot frontage and minimum lot area. Planning staff support the proposal as the lot frontage of Part 1 on Bellevue Boulevard will not be impacted by this consent application. The other land use designations and zoning on Part 1 will also not be altered by this proposal. It is expected that Part 1 will be redeveloped in the future as a secondary plan and zoning bylaw do permit medium density residential land uses. Should this occur, the future development parcel would be accessed from Bellevue Avenue. Creation of an infill residential lot in the urban area is supported by provincial, regional, and town planning policy and is considered good planning. This consent application conforms to the Ridgeway Thunderberry secondary plan. The long-term development envisioned for Part 1 in the secondary plan will not be negatively impacted by this proposal, as it's clear that Parts 2 and 3 were designated residential low density in the plan to facilitate an infill severance along Pearl Street. Planning staff note that the easement on Part 3 is desirable from a planning perspective to ensure long-term provision of municipal services to the existing dwelling located on Part 1. Staff are confident that Part 2 is of adequate size to accommodate future development of a single detached dwelling. Should the dwelling on Part 1 be removed in the future, the easement over the proposed lot may be removed. Staff note that 5% cash in the parkland dedication is required for the creation of 1 new residential parcel, and have no objection to the consent application, subject as well to the following conditions: that draft easement documents are provided to the town for review and the registered documents to the town, that a reference plan is submitted, and the final consent fee. No objections were received from other town staff, from the region, or from the NPCA. The Development Coordinator of Infrastructure has also requested with approval that 3 conditions be implemented: that the easement is facilitated, that a lot grading plan is submitted, and that the trees are, a $500 tree fee is submitted to the town. And that concludes your comments.
Thank you, Kara. Mrs. Steele or Mr. Steele, do you have any comments or questions on the correspondence that Kara read from the comments that she just read out from the town?
No, we went over everything with Kara and Aaron Butler pretty thoroughly, and we understand everything that's on the documents, and she did a really good job in working with us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the committee members have any questions for the applicant? Chris or Ken?
I do not.
Either do I, Mr. Chair.
And I have none. Mackenzie, can you please check the virtual webinar to see if anybody would like to participate in this application, or press *9 for the telephone?
Sure. At this time, I would like to invite any of our attendees to indicate to us that they'd like to speak. I don't anticipate there will be anyone, as it does look like it's just our applicants for the rest of the applications this evening, but I will give just a moment.
Thank you.
Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask that this file be closed and ask committee members to express their views and opinions, and then put a motion forward.
I'll be supporting the application, Mr. Chair. It supports good usage of infill lots with the creation of the other. With the easement, I'm fairly confident that there will be no issues or impact on the existing dwelling in part one. That was really my major concern, but staff did a good job in the report outlining how that will be mitigated. And for that reason, I'll be supporting this because it meets the provincial, regional, and town policies according to the Planning Act.
Thank you. Ken, do you have,
Mr. Chair, I just concur with Chris on his comments. I'll be supporting the application.
thank you, and I'll be supporting the application. It meets the consent test application, and all the comments that Chris just read summarizes my point of view, so I'll be supporting the application. Chris, you want to put the motion on the floor?
Sure. I would like the motion to approve consent file number B08/21. Just a moment before I proceed, do you want them
No,
together
sorry,
or do you want?
Sorry, that's right, correct. My fault there. The motion will be first for B0821, and then we'll do a separate motion for B0921. That's my fault, and I apologize.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, before I read both. So
Yeah.
I'll make the motion for to approve consent file number B0821 based on the written and oral comments received during this meeting, and that this aligns with the province, region, and town policies in the Planning Act.
Thank
I'll
you.
second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion is carried for consent file B0821. You'll receive notice committee decision. Decision becomes final. So long no appeals received within the 20 days of the notice. And let's go for B0921. Chris, want to put the motion on the floor?
Yep. I would like to make a motion to approve file B09/21 based on the written and oral communications received during this meeting, and that this is in line with the provincial, regional, and town policies in regards to the Planning Act.
I'll
Thank you.
second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, the motion is carried. You'll receive a written notice committee decision, and the decision becomes final. So long no appeals are received within the 20 days of this notice. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Steele.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Gonna make sure I'm not unmuted here. The next application is minor variance. Our first minor variance file for tonight is minor variance A1021. The address is 3302 Jewel Avenue. The applicant is Jeremy Phillips. Hi, Jeremy, how are you?
Doing well after that picture's gone.
Anyways, are you ready to proceed tonight with the application?
I am, yes.
Okay, I'll ask Kara to read the correspondence. If you have any concerns or questions, you can address them through me and then through the committee, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
So thanks.
The purpose and effect of this application is to request an increase to the maximum permitted height of the dwelling and to reduce the required side yard for a two-story dwelling. The proposal seeks permission to increase the maximum height of the dwelling to 9.4 meters, and the R1 zoning permits it a maximum of 9 meters. The proposal also seeks to permit a reduction from the interior side yard setback from 2 meters to from 2.5 meters to 2 meters. Planning staff note that a recent housekeeping amendment to the zoning bylaw modified the definition of an infill lot. The definition now reads infill lot, which means a lot abutted on at least two sides, not including the rear, by lots containing dwellings that have existed for a minimum of 8 years. In this instance, 3302 is only abutted on one side by a dwelling that has existed for the minimum of 8 years, 3310 Jewel to the west. Therefore, a minor variance has to reduce the infill interior side yard setback regulations is not required. The proposed interior setback of 2 meters to comply with the R1 zoning for a two-story dwelling. This report will only review the request to increase the height for the dwelling. The Ontario Planning Act provides a minor variance must meet 4 tests to be approved, to be supported by planning. Planning staff have noted that they support the requested variance as it is minor in nature. It is desirable and appropriate and meets the general intent of the zoning bylaw and the Ridgeway Thunder Bay secondary plan. No further comments were received or objections from staff or any external agencies. One public comment was brought forward to us today who were concerned about drainage issues to the abutting property. I did have a discussion with her this afternoon. I see she isn't in attendance, but she just wanted to make it known that there are significant drainage issues in that area. I did advise her that the lot grading plan at building permit stage would address such issues and that there was a swale proposed on the property on the east side as well. However, she just wanted noted to the applicant as well that his property to the west has some significant drainage issues that may impact him as well. So she wanted to advise you of that as well, but just that the drainage issues were a concern for her in that area. And that concludes the comments we've received on this report.
Thank you. Jeremy, did you have any questions or comments related to this application in front of us?
No, I don't.
Okay, do the committee members have any questions?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
I just have one question, and it's in regards to the drawing. I know that Kara just had brought up about the swale. I see on the drawing that the swale was denoted on the east side. Are you also planning a swale on the west side? Because the it's not indicated on the drawing. It just says match existing grades. To me, that means you're going to match the existing lot. There would be no swale there. Am I wrong in that?
So what when I reached out to the surveying company when they did the lot grading plan, they mentioned that looking at the grading plan.
Mr. Chair, I can't hear him. I can't hear the
Jeremy,
explanation.
we can't hear you.
Am I muted? Can you hear me now or no?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
That's
yeah.
better.
Okay.
Just closer to your mic, please.
So what I did, I contacted the surveying company today based on what Kara sent me about the draining issue. They mentioned that, yes, there's going to be a swale or a swale going to the right side of the property, going into a swale that's already there from the bungalow that was actually constructed 2 years ago. So it was a pre-existing one. And we have I think 16.07 meters. So that's roughly, I think 52 feet away. So he mentioned anything past that point where it arches to the right will not be touched. If that makes sense. So he said no water or any drainage issue should impact behind us in the backyard.
Okay. So the arrow indicating the swale is the directional flow of the water course over the land. Is that what you're saying?
That's what they.
Right above part 2 on the
that's
drawing?
what they told me. Yes.
Okay.
Because sorry. Their biggest thing was they want as much water as to go to the front of the house as possible. So that's how they did the grading plan that way.
That's the only question I had.
Okay, thanks. Ken, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Just further to Chris's question to the applicant, the swale that's on what I would call the left side of the property as you look at it from the street, that swale appears to be completely contained on the applicant's property. Is that correct?
Yes, that's on ours. Yeah.
Thank you.
All of our property. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have any questions. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to participate in the webinar? Mackenzie, can you check? And also the phone for pressing *9.
Sure. Again, I'm seeing just our future applicants there, but I will leave the floor open for in case there is anybody that wishes to raise their virtual hand or press *9. Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, I'll ask this file to be closed, ask committee members to express their opinions and views, and then put the motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'll make my comments. This is a minor variance application. It does meet the 4 required tests. So I will be in support of the application, especially in consideration of all the written and oral comments received tonight.
Thank you. And Chris? Chris, you're muted. There you go.
Thanks, Mackenzie. I'll be supporting the application as well, Mr. Chair, for the same reasons that committee member Burden had stated. It is minor in nature, so I'm prepared to support this.
And I'll support the application based on what my colleagues said about the variance test application does meet it. And also the fact that the lot grading plan will hopefully satisfy the neighbors' draining concerns. And I'll be supporting the application. Someone puts the motion on the floor.
Chair, I'll put a motion on the floor that we approve minor variance file number A10/21 Fort Erie for 3302 Jewel Avenue. There are no conditions on this approval.
And do I have a seconder?
I will second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. You receive notice of the committee decision. The decision becomes final so long no appeal is received within the 20 days of this notice. Thanks for attending tonight, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next application is minor variance file A1121. The address is 3645 Netherby Road. The applicant is Dina Cicerelli Hudson. The owners Alex Hudson and Dina Cicerelli Hudson. Hi, Dina. How are you? Back again. How are you?
How are you?
Good. And are you ready to proceed with tonight's application?
Yes.
Okay, I'll ask Kara to read the correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the purpose and effect of this application is to increase the maximum lot coverage for an attached garage to the dwelling in order to permit the addition of the attached garage to the existing dwelling. Planning staff have reviewed the application and provided comments with regards to how the application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance, in that it is minor in nature, it is appropriate for the use and development of the lands, and that it meets the zoning and bylaw intentions. The lands are located within the area of archaeological potential, as Dina is aware from her first variance. And so planning staff do ask that if there is any deep ground disturbance, which I believe we reviewed previously, that an archaeological study will be required. There were no other objections received from other town staff or any external agencies. So based on the report, it is supported by all staff and agencies. And that concludes.
Dina, would you like to comment on any of the correspondence that Kara just read?
It's all pretty much the same. We just need more square footage as much as we can for all the storage that we need. We're a little overwhelmed with not having a basement and an attic, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any comments or questions for the applicant?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Chris?
I do not either.
I don't have any. I originally sat on the original application in November, so I have no questions or comments. Mackenzie would like to check the webinar, see if anybody wants to participate, or press *9 on the telephone, please.
Sure. I'd like to invite any of our attendees to press *9 if they are joining by telephone, or to press the raise hand button at the bottom of their screen. I'll just give a moment to see if anybody would like to indicate that to us. Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna ask this file to be closed and ask the committee members if they'd like to express their concerns and views, and then put the motion on the floor.
I'll be supporting this file. this minor variance, it meets the 4 tests. I don't think the garage is going to present any undue massing, as the buildings next door both have garages. It's very in character with the line of houses that's there. So I'm going to support this application.
Thank you. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I concur with Chris' comments, and the applicant is okay with the request with the condition regarding deep ground disturbance.
And I'll be supporting the application based prior in November. I looked at the application before, and I'll be supporting the application tonight also. So someone wants to put the motion on the floor?
Certainly, I'll make motion to approve file number A11/21 for 3645 Netherby Road based on the written and oral comments received, along with the conditions outlined in the report, as this meets the 4 Planning Act tests for a minor variance.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion is carried. You receive notice of committee decision. Decision becomes final so long no appeals received within the 20 days of this notice. Thanks for attending again, Dean, and good luck in your project.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening, guys.
You too. Okay, the next application is minor variance file A1221. The address is 949 Ferndale Avenue. The applicant is 2495365 Ontario Inc. F. Parkway, or is it Pingay? And the owner is the same. Fernando, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
How are you?
Good, and yourself?
Good. Are you ready to proceed with tonight's application?
I certainly am, yes.
Okay, I'll ask Kara to read the correspondence, and if you have any comments or questions, you can address them then. Thank you.
Purpose and effect of this application is to decrease the interior side yard setbacks required for a 1-story dwelling on an infill lot. The proposal seeks permission to decrease the minimum interior side yard setback to 1.7 meters on each side of the proposed 1-story dwelling, which is an infill lot. The zoning bylaw requires a minimum interior setback of 2 meters for new 1-story dwellings on infill lots. Planning staff have reviewed the application and proposal and have stated that the comments, based on the above, on the comments replied in the report, that they are in support of the requested variance with the condition to be implemented that construction of a future dwelling is limited to a 1-story in height. And the application does meet the 4 tests of a minor variance, that it's minor, it meets the zoning bylaw and official plan, and is appropriate and desirable. No further objections were received from town staff or external agencies. 1 comment was received from the public, which was provided to the applicant and to the committee as well this morning. A neighbor was concerned with drainage issues with regards to the property in the new home. They're also concerned about the tree canopy interference, as there's a large healthy tree on the property line with the majority of the tree, 85% on their property. It appears to be approximately halfway between the rear of the dwelling and the wall of the new garage. And they also wanted to consider why the setback was being required through variance. They stated that they moved to Fort Erie to downsize and were not looking forward to having a home that was built closer to theirs than what is established by the bylaw. And they were just worried about as well whether the new home might be a deterrent to future home buyers if they decide to sell, as it might reduce their property value as well. And that concludes the comments that were received on this application.
Thank you, Kara, for your comments and from the agencies. Fernando, did you like to comment on any of the correspondence or comments made by the town or by the neighbors that received the report? Yep.
Yeah, through you to Mrs. Potts. I know I'm asking for a 1.7 meter side yard setback. In actuality, the grading plan supplied to the town for building permit, it's really, I'm 1.78. So the difference is between what the bylaw reads to what I'm going to be at is about 9 inches. I don't think 9 inches is going to negatively impact the value of the current home. I'm hoping the home that's going to be put up there, which is an 1,800 square foot, 3-bedroom bungalow, should increase the value of the surrounding properties. They're concerned about the grading plan or the water management. The town has been supplied the grading plan that will deal with water on the site, dealt with on site, so it shouldn't be an issue. Actually, their property is higher. I looked over the topography map today, and their property is higher. So if anybody's going to be concerned, I'll be concerned that my water might run onto my side. As far as the tree, we've completed our arborist report and submitted it to the town. That addresses any of the trees that it'll be dealt with as the report suggests. Other than that, I don't see an issue. So those are the 3 items they had brought up that I spoke to. I don't know if you have any questions for me, or the Potts have any question for me.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members first have any questions for the applicant?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
I do not. He actually answered the questions that I was going to ask in his comments, so I have none.
Right, and the only question I have, Fernando, originally from the consent application, you did have to meet the tree preservation plan and the arborist policy, so you have complied with it, correct?
Well, yes, we will be. There's, I think, I didn't read the full report, to be honest with you, because we haven't started yet. But
Okay.
Whatever their guidelines are, I have to follow. The contractors need to follow. So.
Right, then there was guidelines there. Okay, thank you.
Yes, they're already in place.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask the committee, I'll ask the public if they would like to speak on behalf of this application. So I'll ask Mackenzie if she can check the virtual webinar or press *9 by phone.
Sure. So I will provide a moment for anybody to indicate to us, but I do see that we just have our last applicant in the waiting room right now. So I don't anticipate we will, but I'll just give one moment. Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask this file to be closed and ask committee members who'd like to express their views and opinions and then put the motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'll be in support to approve application for the minor variance. It meets the 4 tests. The planning staff do support it, and the applicant has already demonstrated their efforts to comply with the issues that have been raised by neighbors and actually have already been addressed by the town.
Thank you. And Chris?
I'll be supporting it for the same reasons that committee member Burden had stated. I will, this meets the 4 tests, and it's extremely minor in nature. So I will be supporting the application. I don't think the Potts have much to worry about because since 2014, property values in Fort Erie have gone up 234%. So I don't think they're going to lose out on this house being built here.
Okay, thank you. I'll be supporting the application. I originally was on the consent application file and I approved that, and I have no questions or concerns. It does meet the minor variance test. The town supports it. It meets the official plan, and the neighbor's concerns should be addressed through the lot grading plan and also the tree preservation plan policy that was put in place through the consent application. So put the motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'll put a motion on the floor that we approve minor variance file number A12/21 for 949 Ferndale Avenue. There is one condition, and this recommendation for approval comes with the understanding of all of the submitted written reports and oral comments received tonight.
Thank you. And Chris?
I will second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. The motion is carried. Fernando, you receive a notice of committee decision. The decision becomes final. So long, no appeals received within the 20 days of this notice. Thank you for attending tonight.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, the last file for The last file for tonight is minor variance A1321. The address is 380 Helen Street. The applicant owner is Susan Forsey or Forsey.
Oh, hang on.
We can hear you, Susan. We just can't see you.
Oh, okay, all right.
There you are.
Oh, here we are.
Here we are.
Okay.
Hi, Susan. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking.
Is it Forsey or 4Z?
4C, a 4
C.
and a C.
Okay, 4C. Okay. Are you ready to proceed tonight with the application, Susan?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'll ask Kara to read the correspondence. If you have any questions or comments, you can address them through me or through the committee.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. So you ready to proceed then tonight?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'll ask Kara to read the correspondence.
The purpose and effect of this application is to increase the lot coverage for an accessory structure in order to permit a proposed shed. The shed will occupy 6.2 square meters, which is a 1.4% lot coverage, and will be located north of the existing garage in the rear yard of the subject property. The existing garage currently occupies 40.9 square meters, which is 9.3%. A test of a minor variance states that you must meet the following four tests: that it is minor in nature, that it is desirable and appropriate, and that it meets the general intent and zoning bylaw and the official plan. Planning staff support the requested variance as it does meet the four tests of a minor variance. No conditions or comments were received from other town staff or external agencies. One comment was provided from a neighbor who provided their support for the application, who resides at 3714 Glaber Street. And that concludes your comments on this application.
Thanks, Kara. Susan, would you like to comment on any of the correspondence, or you're okay with everything?
No, I'm fine with everything. Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask committee members if they have any questions or concerns for the applicant. Ken?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Chris? I have none. I'll ask Mackenzie if she can look by virtual room if anyone wants to participate, or by calling the phone and pressing *9.
Chair, we have no one left in our attendee waiting room at the moment.
Okay, I'll give it 10 seconds and then I'll close the file. Okay, I'll ask this file be closed. I'll ask committee members that to express their views on the application and put the motion on the floor.
I'll be supporting the application. The variance is minor in nature, supported by the neighbors. I don't think the shed is going to have any kind of massing impact on the neighboring properties at all. As such, I feel it meets the four tests of the Planning Act. And for those reasons, I'll be supporting it.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Mr. Chair, I concur with Chris's comments. I'll be supporting the application.
I'll be supporting the application based on what Chris and Ken has stated, mainly Chris. And I'll be supporting the application. So if you want to put the motion on the floor, Chris, then we'll go from there.
Certainly, I'd like to make motion that we approve minor variance file number A13/21 for 380 Helen Street, based on the written and oral comments received, and that this application meets the four tests of the Planning Act, and that the variance is minor in nature.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Susan, you receive a written notice, committee decision. Decision becomes final so long no appeals received within the 20 days of this notice. Thanks for attending tonight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay. May I ask for a motion from the committee to process the signing of the decision concurred by the majority of members electronically?
I'll motion that.
And Ken, you're going to second that? All in favor? I'm just going to do it all in favor. Okay, thank you.
Aye.
Now I ask members, have any corrections to the minutes of 20 which were circulated?
Through you, Mr. Chair, they were not circulated.
Okay, and there'll be corrections.
We'll defer it to the next meeting.
Okay. If there's no further business at this meeting, is there any other agendas, any items that you like to address? Chris,
None for me, sir.
Ken?
I do not have any.
And I have none. I'll ask this meeting to be adjourned for tonight for 7:44 PM. Thank you for attending tonight. Anybody virtually, thank you so much.